What's good, YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to create this freeze frame distorted effect inside After Effects. We're going to be masking out our subjects in order to create this distorted effect within 3 different scenes, and we're also going to be creating this flash blur transition in order to really bring this entire effect together. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into it. So here in After Effects, I have these 3 clips playing from the Young Metro music video by Future, Metro Boomin, and The Weeknd. What we're going to do in order to get started is we're going to go to our second clip, and I'm going to duplicate this layer. So click Ctrl D, right click the layer, go to time, and freeze frame the layer. I'm going to make this layer 6 frames long, and then I'm going to bring that layer back 6 frames. I'm going to grab the pen tool and mask out my subject. After masking out the subject, I'm going to click the layer and click M in order to reveal the mask, and I'm going to increase the mask feather to 4 and decrease the mask expansion to -2 just to make the edges of our subject feel smoother. I'm going to keyframe the scale, bring that keyframe to the end, and I'm going to have our subject go from smaller to bigger. So I'm going to keyframe the scale at 50 in the beginning, and then I'm going to keyframe the position, bring that keyframe to the end, and then I'm going to have my subject animating from the left. So I'm just going to adjust the X value as well as the Y value where we don't see the bottom edge of our subject. So I'm going to keyframe it like that, where it animates from the bottom left corner. Grab those keyframes, easy ease them, turn on the motion blur, and then I'm going to go into the graph editor of the position keyframes. I'm going to make my graph like this, where the influence is at 100% and it animates in fast in the beginning and then it animates out slow. I'm going to create the same exact graph for our scale keyframes. And now if I play this, we have our freeze frame subject animating in. Now in order to create that distorted effect, I'm going to add a turbulent displace. I'm going to change the displacement to turbulent smoother and keyframe the amount at 350 in the beginning. Go towards the end and keyframe the amount to 0. I'm also going to increase the size from 100 to 150. Now we have this distorted effect to our subject, and then I'm going to add an exposure in order to have it flash in as the freeze frame effect happens. I'm going to keyframe the exposure at 7 in the beginning, and then go towards the end and keyframe the exposure back to 0. Grab those keyframes, easy ease them, go into the graph editor of our turbulent displace keyframes, create the same graph as we did for the other ones. Go into the graph editor of our exposure keyframes, create the same exact graph. Now we have our first freeze frame distorted effect. I'm going to create a flash blur effect between first and the second clip, just so that it creates this smooth transition right when the freeze frame effect cuts in. So I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. I'm going to make the adjustment layer 4 frames long. In order to create that flash blur effect, I'm going to add a directional blur to this adjustment layer. I'm going to keyframe the blur length at 100 in the middle. Click the layer and click U to reveal the keyframes. Go to the beginning, keyframe the blur length at 0, and keyframe the blur length at 0 at the end as well. Grab those keyframes, easy ease them, and then add an exposure to this adjustment layer. Keyframe the exposure at 4 in the middle, and then go towards beginning, keyframe the exposure to 0, and then keyframe the exposure at 0 at the end as well. Make sure to easy ease those keyframes. Now if we play this, we have this smooth blur flash transition, and since the blur length of the directional blur is really high, it creates this like transparent background on the top and the bottom edges. So in order to fix that, we can just add a motion tile to first scene and have the output height at 300. Click mirror edges, grab that same motion tile, Control C, and go to our second clip and click Control V in order to copy and paste it. Now you guys can see that we don't have the transparency on the top or the bottom edges. And then moving on to the second freeze frame distorted effect from the second scene to the third scene. It's a similar process where I'm going to grab that layer and click Control D and make it 6 frames long. Click that layer, go to time, and click freeze frame, and I'm going to bring that layer back 6 frames, and then I'm going to mask out my subject. After masking out your subject, make sure to click the layer and click M to reveal the mask and adjust the mask feather as well as the mask expansion. I'm just going to have it the same thing as our other layer, and then we're going to keyframe the position as well as the scale. I'm going to keyframe the scale at 100% and bring that towards the end. Keyframe the scale at 50% in the beginning. Keyframe the position, bring that towards the end, and have it animate from the bottom left just like our other layer. I'm going to have it like that. Grab those keyframes, easy ease them. Make sure to turn on your motion blur, and then I'm going to grab the effects from our first freeze frame effect, Control C, go to that freeze frame layer and click Control V. In order to make the animation of this freeze frame distorted effect smoother, I'm just going to grab the keyframes in the beginning and just bring that 1 frame back for both both of these freeze framed effects. By doing that, it makes the animation smoother. I'm going to then grab the adjustment layer with the flash blur effects, click Ctrl D in order to duplicate the layer, and then bring that layer to the top above our other layers. Bring that layer between the freeze framed effect and the final layer. So now if we play this is what we have for our final freeze frame distorted effect. And that is all there is for this freeze frame distorted effect. If you guys found this video helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.